The US dollar has been the king for decades, but there's a new contender in the ring, Bitcoin. Will Bitcoin prop up the dollar and help the US stay on top? Or will it tear down the entire fiat system and usher in a new financial era? Welcome back, I'm Rustin, and today we're going to break down exactly how this plays out. And spoiler alert, either way, Bitcoin wins. Send it!
Everyone is a skeptic before they're a true believer and investor. And pretty soon everyone's going to be embracing Bitcoin because it is really the apex property that gives people around the world the strongest economic rights and the strongest property rights. I mean, everything else you could own is really inferior because everything else has a supply that can change or increase. And most things are tethered to decisions of companies or countries. And Bitcoin is global, it's neutral, it's decentralized. And really the only thing it's tethered to is the truth of math and physics and energy. So I think it will be adopted by every company as well as every nation state, especially the ones that believe in property rights.
Hey, get used to hearing it. Bitcoin is the apex property of the human race. It is digital energy. Imagine a world where the US doesn't just allow Bitcoin, it embraces it. Picture this, the Treasury starts accumulating Bitcoin as part of a strategic reserve. Instead of watching the dollar inflate into oblivion, the government leverages Bitcoin to strengthen the balance sheet. Here's how it works. Bitcoin acts like digital gold, a scarce, untouchable asset that appreciates while fiat devalues. By issuing Bitcoin-backed bonds, the US can attract global capital and slowly wean off the printing press. Over time, this creates a parallel system. Fiat for spending and Bitcoin for saving. Now, this doesn't end the Fed overnight, but slowly Bitcoin devalues the need for endless QE, quantitative easing. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's exactly how the gold standard operated. That is, before Nixon decided to pull the rug. Saylor's framework fits this perfectly, and so does Jim Rickards' modern gold theory. Just plug in Bitcoin, boom. But a digital commodity like Bitcoin, it sits outside the reach of central banks. The US positions Bitcoin as a safety net for when, not if, the dollar falters. This isn't just theory. Countries like El Salvador are already proving the model. And by the time the Fed realizes what's happening, well, Bitcoin isn't just part of the system, it is the system.
I have been worried about Bitcoin some, that because it's so complicated, it could facilitate illegal activities or terrorist activities.
A while back, as you know, I called on federal authorities to shut down the website Silk Road, which they recently did. Many people interpreted my action at the Times as directed at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was the sole method of payment on Silk Road, and assumed that I also wanted to shut down or stamp out Bitcoin. That is not the case. I do not want to shut down or stamp out Bitcoin.
On that Silk Road issue, the FBI seized about 144,000 Bitcoins. What does the federal government do with those?
So luckily that's not an issue that we'll have to deal with at FinCEN, but I can tell you from my past job as the head of the forfeiture program that they will be thinking about whether they can sell those assets.
Do they still have them?
I would have to defer to my colleagues at the Department of Justice.
It's just magic internet money. It'll never replace the dollar. Fast forward 10 years and Bitcoin ETFs are gobbling up supply. BlackRock, Fidelity, and the biggest players in finance aren't betting against Bitcoin. They're all in. And here's the catch. By letting Bitcoin in the front door, the US government unknowingly may have signed Fiat's death certificate. Every dollar flowing into Bitcoin through regulated markets removes power from the banking system. Bitcoin becomes the exit ramp for those fed up with inflation and monetary manipulation. And let's not forget the game theory at play. When one nation stockpiles Bitcoin, others are forced to follow. The US may have thought it could control Bitcoin, but instead, Bitcoin is quietly absorbing liquidity from the traditional system. Bitcoin isn't a threat to the US, it's a weapon against every other fiat currency.
So the very simple idea is buy 20 or 25% of the Bitcoin network on behalf of the US government, catalyze the development of that world reserve capital network, and then let all the Chinese and the Russians and the foreigners sell all their other assets and buy Bitcoin, and then the money flows into the United States. If you want to put a great twist on it, dump your gold, sell all the U.S. gold, buy Bitcoin, then the trade is free because you could buy 5 million Bitcoin for the cost of the gold, you will demonetize the entire gold asset class, and our enemies hold gold in their banks. So their assets would go to zero. Our assets would go to $100 trillion, and we would control the world's reserve capital network as well as the world's reserve currency.
While the dollar slowly bleeds out, Bitcoin ensures America still holds the high ground. Bitcoin isn't the escape pod, it's the inevitable outcome. The more Bitcoin the US holds, the less fiat matters. Or as the new partner at MicroStrategy, Brian Brooks, says, the banks are being made obsolete in real time.
Cryptocurrencies are really not about currency. And the biggest misunderstanding of this whole discussion is the belief that if crypto is not doing a great job of replacing the US dollar, then crypto is failing in its mission. And what I think we'll talk about a little bit today is the idea that most of crypto is about replacing the centralized banking system with networks that allow user control versus bank CEO control. The crypto assets that have prices are more like internet stocks. It's more like you bet on Google if you think there's going to be high internet traffic, and you short Google if you think people are going to go back to the post office, right? But it's not that Ethereum or Ripple or anything else is trying to replace the US dollar. It's trying to replace a system of transmitting value. And we'll talk a lot more about that. So for me, the prices are not that relevant any more than Google's volatility is. And in the early days of Google, that was super volatile.
Now let's be real. This isn't an all or nothing situation. Fiat isn't going to disappear tomorrow and Bitcoin won't become the global reserve overnight. But what if both systems exist side by side? Here's how the middle path plays out. Kind of think of Nick Bhatia, layered money. But Bitcoin slowly becomes the backbone for large-scale settlements and reserves. The dollar remains for day-to-day transactions, but its purchasing power is anchored to Bitcoin. And over time, Bitcoin absorbs volatility from the fiat system, making the dollar more stable by proxy. You could kind of visualize a hybrid financial system where Bitcoin acts as digital gold, stabilizing all other fiat currencies. You want to know what Michael Saylor's framework envisions? We're about to bring it home. But before we do, look at our likes!
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pap while we take a moment to recognize our sponsors, the masters of Bitcoin self-sovereignty, the Bitcoin Way. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way. They bring over 25 years of cybersecurity experience. They are your IT team in the Bitcoin world. They help bridge that gap from the why Bitcoin to the how Bitcoin. And as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. From your first wallet node to advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more, the Bitcoin Way has got you covered. And if you're looking to get started, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link below.
Why should I care as a participant in the economy? I'm not going to buy stuff with crypto anytime soon. It doesn't feel like. So what's in it for me?
Well, in the U.S., you might not be buying much with crypto anytime soon, but that's not true about the rest of the world. Bitcoin is different things to different people. And the most important aspect of Bitcoin is that no one controls it. It's just code maintained by engineers in an open source, decentralized manner, and it cannot be diluted by the arbitrary whims of a control P at a central bank.
Fiat doesn't collapse, it evolves into a digital ecosystem with Bitcoin leading the charge. Tokenized assets, commodities, and securities thriving under Bitcoin's umbrella. And the banks you know of in their current form, they go extinct. An example of this may be the US dollar stablecoin market growing to trillions, but it's collateralized by Bitcoin, not treasuries. The US Treasury itself issues Bitcoin-backed debt. Whether it saves the dollar or ushers in its replacement, Bitcoin sits at the core of the financial future. The old guard fights to stay relevant, but Bitcoin wins regardless.
20th century is going to flow into the 21st century. People are going to sell gold and they're going to buy digital gold. They're going to sell antiquated real estates and aged apartment buildings and natural gas fields, and they're going to sell soybeans or whatever in Siberia, and they're going to buy 21st century assets. And that means Bitcoin, among other things. And then capital in foreign nations is going to flow toward the West, and it's going to capital flow from the East to the West, and it'll flow from Europe to the US. And the only reason it doesn't is because we don't make it easy for the money to move. And the way to make it easy, embrace Bitcoin, and anybody can buy Bitcoin anywhere on the world. So embrace Bitcoin, and that is a capital network that the United States would own and benefit from. And all of the capital from your enemies and all foreign capital and all antiquated capital and all inefficient, thermodynamically unsound capital, it would all flow into the Bitcoin network. And if we issued that digital currency, that stable coin, then all of the world currencies would immediately swap to the dollar for all except for their next 4 weeks of cash flows, because everybody wants the dollar everywhere outside the US. And so this is an example of leading through a digital assets framework, right? And the two most important digital assets in the world are digital currency in the form of the dollar and digital capital in the form of Bitcoin.
The winner is Bitcoin because it's technology, it's energy, and it's unstoppable. Here's the takeaway. Bitcoin isn't coming to destroy the dollar maliciously, but its mere existence forces the dollar to adapt or die. Whether by choice or necessity, the US will ride the Bitcoin wave. The question isn't how Bitcoin will win. The question is, how soon? Until Mining Disrupt 2025. It's the biggest Bitcoin mining conference on the planet, and it's coming to Fort Lauderdale March 25th through the 27th. Get your tickets today and join thousands of Bitcoin mining professionals and enthusiasts from around the globe for an electrifying experience at Mining Disrupt. See the latest cutting-edge hardware, products, and services that are revolutionizing the Bitcoin mining industry. For over half a decade, Mining Disrupt has been the premier conference and expo exclusively dedicated to the Bitcoin mining industry. Be part of the future and join the movement that's shaping the world of Bitcoin mining. Don't miss out. Head over to miningdisrupt.com and get your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off. Oh, and the Simply Bitcoin news desk will be on site. I'm going to be there. Nico and Opti are going to be there, and we hope to see you there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a pep, and spread the Sound Money Gospel. Hope you all had an amazing Christmas, New Year's incoming, and then a free Ross Albright and SBRs on the horizon. Hey, stay tuned. Dante has some new episodes of Bitcoin Simply dropping this weekend. And don't miss Nico's exclusive interview with Larry the Legend Lepard, talking his new book, The Big Print. Actually, why don't you just click here and watch it now? You'll thank me later. Hey, love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.